You know, today we're streaming this live across I don't know how many continents, right? And I'd like to send a special hello, and I think he's listening from Rio de Janeiro. A good friend, Sergio Damasio, he and I have become email friends over the last couple of months, and I just want to say hello to Sergio. I know he's out there. I'd also like to make a special thanks to some folks who, frankly, without them, we wouldn't be here today. Folks that have been welcoming you here, coming to the conference and the registration, and that is the Scott family. And I don't know if any of them are in here today, but without the Scott family, here we go. 60 years. They started this thing 60 years ago. Thank you all so very much. We look forward to spending a little more time with you tomorrow night at tomorrow night's awards ceremony. I also like to, if Mary from Phoenix is watching, I want her to remember that I still owe you a dance from last year. I missed you at last year's conference, so don't think I forgot about that. I think our attendees here would like to know that for the 6th consecutive year, the National Ataxia Foundation is a recipient of Charity Navigator's 4-Star Award. This, I'll tell you, I've been here for almost a year, just about 6 months in this position as ED, and I can tell you, you'd be very proud to know how these dollars that come into our foundation are truly managed, and where they go, and something like Charity Navigator's position in granting us the 6th consecutive 4-Star Award, I think, is a real testimony to how our dollars here are spent. Also, special thanks to Bonnie Sills. I don't know where Bonnie is, but through her efforts and the Houston Support Group, we were able to reinstate our free T-shirts. And they're great-looking shirts this year, aren't they? Huh? The 60th anniversary. Thank you, Bonnie, and her friend Buzzy. Thank you so much. In Camille's talk, she talked we have I think roughly 125 first-time attendees. How many are here today? First-time attendees and newly diagnosed folks. Gotcha. How many are here for a second time? How many have no clue how many times they've been here? Yeah, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, yeah. But for the first-timers, I'm sure there's some discomfort and some angst and plenty of questions. And I think the one thing that we hope you come away from this weekend is that you're not alone. Sometimes before you come to a conference like this, undoubtedly some angst, anticipation. But you're surrounded with a bunch of like-minded people in the same situation and probably going through some of the things that you do every day. Reach out to the people next to you and around you, and don't waste any time. These 2 days will go by really fast. And I think the quicker you can reach out and share your stories, I think you'll get the most out of this weekend. For those of you that were here last year, you may remember that I was the new development director at that time, and I was introduced the evening of the banquet, and I kind of got up and whispered a couple things, and one of the things I whispered was, hey, money buys research, research finds answers. And it resonated with some folks. But this year we're not whispering it. We're going to be loud and proud with this. So when I say money buys research, what's that, Skippy? Money buys research? All right, we're going to do it one more time for the whole place. Money buys research? There we go. It's up to us. It's up to us to load the quivers of our clinicians, our researchers across the country, to give them the tools to get the answers that we all want and we all need. And as soon as we realize the ugly little question, the ugly answer to that question is dollars, the quicker we're going to get there. And don't get me wrong, this is not going to be a talk about raising the money. But that's something that we all have to keep in mind. The answer for that is in this room. And for our friends and our networks and our sphere of influence across the country is going to help load the quivers for a very talented and passionate team of researchers that we have here at the National Ataxia Foundation. And by the way, that was pretty doggone good. Maybe it was part of the Bruno Mars music that got us going, right? So when Mike retired, why did they hire me? Why Joel Sutherland? Maybe it's my imposing figure, huh? Maybe my ability to color coordinate, you know? I mean, black and white can be challenging for some, right? I don't think that's what it was. I think it's in part to the fact that for the last 4.5 years before I came to NAF, that I was with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. And I'm very proud of those 4.5 years, and I'm very glad I had it because I think they're a great jump start for me to come here to the NAF. At CF, not only did I hear, but I saw. What did I see? I saw that money buys research. Research buys absolutely. I'll tell you. And I think that was a big reason to bring that philosophy, to bring that energy to the National Ataxia Foundation. I think it's a big reason why I'm here today. And I'm very proud to be here. And it's an exciting challenge. We have a high ceiling. We've got a blank canvas. And the only thing we can't do is nothing. We were talking yesterday in a fundraising meeting. It was a great comment by Amy. She said, you know what, we don't have to start here. You know, we're going to build this thing block by block. And that's true. And we're all going to think big. We've got to think big. But we know we're not going from here to there. We're going to get there one step at a time. We've got to think big, but we've got to start. The one thing we can't do is nothing. I think another reason that I was brought in for this position is to usher in some change, to bring in some new ideas. And for that, I'd like to thank the entire board of directors. Sometimes we all know it's somewhat cliche, we know about change being difficult, but we all know how important it is. And we really started on some things that I want to introduce to you right now. The first thing you may have seen, if anybody's on a mailing list here that gets our generations, are the official publication of the National Ataxia Foundation, published quarterly. In the last edition, you probably saw, you know, we've done some little things, dressed it up, given it a little bit of facelift, a new look, and we're not done with that. In our next publication, many of us, I know I could tell the difference, we actually brought a science writer in to help us understand some of the things that many of our researchers deal with. You know, like we're talking about having a cup of coffee. These guys, they're doing it. They know what they're talking about. I'm trying to read this, and I get a headache. And so the intent is, let's bring somebody in to help put it in true layman's terms. And I think when you see the next publication, I think you're going to have a real appreciation for that. In January, we launched our very first electronic newsletter. That's going to allow us to be extremely nimble in bringing information to our community and to you. Work in progress, by all means. That will continue to change and shift and get some new ideas. We had a great dialogue yesterday in our leadership committee talking about utilizing the newsletter almost as a marketplace for people can learn of new devices, almost kind of have our own abilities expo within our e-newsletter, so that people can see what's new for you, what might work. I'm sure we won't have everything in there for you, but it's certainly going to be a sample, and give you and perhaps we'll give you some more ideas and communicate with us and let us know what you may be looking for in this particular communication. Excited about getting that going, and once again, that'll be a monthly piece. And if you've got ideas for that, on how to interact with us, let us know. Tomorrow, at our business meeting, we are going to introduce a new logo, a new color scheme for the foundation. Very excited about that. You know, Camille showed a wonderful presentation on the proud past that we have, but this is the first part of the focused future. And giving us a new look, new color scheme, something that I think will resonate with all of us in terms of the connectivity of our community, our researchers and clinicians, bringing everybody together. I think it's something we'll all be able to really gather around. That was the first thing we had to do before we embarked on developing a new website. NAF, we're going to be getting a new website. I'd like to think we'll have it up and running by the end of May. When we get back from the conference, we're going to start work on that right away. Make it more user-friendly, I think. A little more upbeat. I mean, there's so much information on our website. Even the first couple of agencies I spoke with, they can't believe how much information is on there. And there's a lot of good stuff in there. We just need to rework it. I hope you're looking forward to that. Back in October, we had our annual board retreat in Minneapolis, and as part of that, we had a couple of folks who have done some of our walk and rolls and have had some success with fundraising events across the country. Came into Minneapolis, and we had what we called, it was like a walk and roll summit. How's that for a big name? Hey, we got together, we talked about raising funds and what can we do to help support all of our walks across the country. One of the things that came out of that was, it'd be nice to somehow get all of our walks across the country kind of branded. Take some load off of all of our walk and roll coordinators across the country. Everybody's worried about, okay, how many T-shirts do we need? What colors should we do? How much, what do they cost? Who should I get them for? And we're doing that at every site. And it's kind of a headache, but you know what? T-shirts at our walks are great. So we said at that conference, we need to find a way to provide shirts for all of our walk and rolls, one common look, and at no cost. All right, how are we going to do that? So I gave Bill a call and said, hey, Bill, no. And you know what? We got it done. Thanks to our good friends at Biohaven Pharmaceuticals and at Riata. Here's our walk and roll shirts for 2017. These are free. Because of our partnerships with Biohaven and with Riata, complimentary. All we need to know is how many you need, what's the size, and where to ship them. That's a good first step for us. It's something that we, as a foundation and an office, need to find ways to do more for you with our walks and with our support groups. And this is a first good step. So, walk and roll T-shirts, we're ready. We've also embarked on a new fundraising campaign for this year, something we're calling the 60 for 60. Some of you may have seen that last year, I think it was the end of August or so, a buddy of mine and myself said we want to do something different for the International Ataxia Awareness Day. So we decided, okay, well, 60 years. I guess it was only 59 at the time, 60 this year. But we were thinking 60 years last year. So my buddy and I, Bill Vince, he's 68, suffers from AFib. We decided we're going to walk 60 miles. We're going to walk 60 miles for NAF. And boy, at about the 15-mile marker, I was hoping the Scuts would have started this thing about 15 years ago. Instead of saying, holy cow. My goodness. But I can tell you, it wasn't necessarily a fun walk. I can't tell you it was fun, but it was fantastic. You can solve a lot of problems in over 3 days and 21 hours of walking with two guys. So we've decided to roll this out across the country, and we are working to find 60 people across the country to take on a 60-mile walk or ride campaign. We started that on roughly August 28th, and all we did was a online letter writing campaign that we sent out to friends and families and asked them to forward along. We raised a little over $10,000, almost $11,000 on that. The logistics behind that were a pair of tennis shoes and some tape for the blisters and everything that went along. The logistics were basic. So we're working to find 60 people to do that as well this year. Another new campaign. And if you have interest, let us know. We're going to go back to something else that I mentioned earlier, and that's our new news with Biohaven and Riata. First time we have two national sponsors that have stepped up to work with us on an ongoing basis. That's news, and it's just a start. I was speaking with John and Rob earlier about this, and to have this community come together is important for them, it's important for us, and to bring them together in terms of a national sponsorship allows us to do so many things, and I'd like to thank you. And to that extent, I think many people in here may be ready for are familiar with the Biohaven clinical trials that are taking place. And at this time, to shed a little more light on what's going on with those clinical trials and everything that's going on at Biohaven, please welcome Mr. Rob Bearman.
Great. Thank you.
Give me 10.
Okay. Is this microphone on now? You can hear me okay? Great. Well, thank you for sharing the stage with me. Biohaven's a very proud sponsor for its second year of NAF, and we want to congratulate you on your proud pass, our proud pass, because we're members too now, of 60 years of really tremendous effort, and effort that's really paved the way for companies like Biohaven to start developing drugs in the area of ataxia, and in our case, particularly spinocerebellar ataxia. So let me tell you a little bit about us. Biohaven is developing a drug for spinocerebellar ataxia, and we're in the middle of what we call registrational studies. And a registrational study is a study that would be of adequate qualities for the FDA to be able to approve a drug for a particular indication, in this case for spinocerebellar ataxia. So we may very well be the first such company to try to do that for SCA. We do know there are others that have done it for Friedreich's ataxia. And what we also know is that there are a lot of other companies, sponsors, who are developing other drugs that are deeper in the pipeline. And I thought it would be worthwhile just talking a little bit about what it means to develop a drug. So this is the one cartoon I want to show you to illustrate the process. Because this is our hope of the focused future, is that there'll be ample treatments. And I think we're really on the cusp of seeing a lot more trials in this space. So this is how drug development kind of unfolds. So for every 10,000 molecules that are actually synthesized, one actually turns into a marketed compound. So there's a lot of attrition in this pipeline here. So after a compound is synthesized, it then enters the phase in the orange band where it goes through testing in animals and also in test tubes to make sure the drug does what it's supposed to do. And only when it's deemed to be appropriately safe does it move into that blue phase where it's tested first in volunteers, healthy volunteers, to understand a little bit more about how the drug reacts with the body. And then it advances into populations with, in this case, spinocerebellar ataxia. Biohaven study is actually in the clinical phase right now, and we do have an ongoing study. I'll tell you more about that in a second. So the process takes a long time, and that's why your patients may seem quite tested in this. But I will say there are plenty of sponsors with a variety of exciting treatments, potential treatments that are in the hopper here. So this slide basically walks through what it took for Biohaven to get where it is now. So it really is an effort that builds upon a lot of other work from academics, academic researchers, many of whom you've heard speak at the meeting and are speaking later today, clinicians, chemists such as at FCCDC who synthesized the drug that we're working on. I don't know if I have a cursor or a pointer. Well, down below there. And also, most importantly, the work from the NAF over its 60 years, because it's through those efforts that they've sponsored some very critical studies that are pictured here in the inset boxes. And those studies have really laid the groundwork for us to be able to design studies. It's really necessary to have that, and for us to understand the course of the illness. And so that's what brings Biohaven to where it is today. So right now, our study is actually going on in different sites around the U.S., and you can see their locations pictured here. And they're all with investigators who've been very dedicated to this field in the NAF for many, many years. I would encourage you to visit our booth next door in the exhibit hall. We'd love to just talk with you, or if you have questions about the study, we can answer them too. And we'll share more information on that. So in closing, let me just say it's a privilege to be here, to be able to talk with you about Biohaven. I want to thank Joel and the NAF again, and welcome you to come by and just ask questions. So thank you, and have a great meeting. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, that's good. No, that's good. No, great. Thank you very much, Rob. In addition to the folks at Biohaven, I'd really encourage you to take a look, get through our exhibit hall. A number of great things to check out there. And I don't know if everybody here has signed up at the CORDS registry, but by all means, we really encourage you to do so while you're here at this year's conference. More new stuff. I should say more new stuff. How's that? What I mean by that is this past week, the National Ataxia Foundation added a new member to our staff. Stephanie Lucas has joined us. Stephanie as our communications manager. Welcome, Stephanie. In her role, Stephanie is going to really lead the way on our social media platforms. Will serve as our project manager when we get back to Minneapolis as we move to develop our new website. Will become our web administrator. And I'll tell you, with all the good things that are happening within this community, we need to be able to communicate them. And so many things to talk about, a lot of good things going on, and Stephanie's going to be our key to communicating our message to you. To that point, a couple weeks ago, I sat down with Harry Orr in Minneapolis. Harry couldn't be with us today, and I asked him to help me kind of set the tone. What are some of the new things going on so I can relay these messages? And we had a great lunch, and when I got done hearing all the new things that Harry was talking about, I knew that I was not the guy to deliver this message. This does not come from the first-year guy. And let me tell you, I think Harry'd be proud to have his replacement, or the guy who's filling in and serving his purpose today, a true friend of the foundation, a gentleman who's been sitting on our clinical trial readiness program, has really spearheaded the efforts behind that. I'll tell you, I've sat in on 2 of his meetings. If you ever need somebody to facilitate a meeting, my goodness, you're the best. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from the University of Michigan, Dr. Hank Paulson. Whatever. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Joel. It's great to be here. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Camille. Thank you to the Academy, the National Ataxia Foundation for doing this. I'm really happy to be here for lots of reasons. One is I checked my iPhone 5 minutes ago. It's 27 degrees in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And we have no power. We lost power because of the windstorm. So my wife is there. I made a lovely fire for her before I left. She's there alone in a cold house, 27 degrees, low of 11 tonight apparently. So it's nice to be here. But it's really nice to be here. I come almost every year because, frankly, being at this meeting keeps my juices going. Keeps me thinking about the eye on the prize, basically finding treatments for ataxia. To the 125 first-timers today, wow, that's fantastic. Ask every question you think of. There's no dumb question. People here have answers, and if they don't, they'll try to work for it. And Joel said, can I come up and talk about why it's an exciting time in research? And I said, what, do I have an hour and a half? You know, I think I have like 5 minutes. I do have 25 minutes later where I'll talk about the trial readiness program. And so there may be a little redundancy, but I am actually very excited about where we're going. Last year at this meeting, I gave a talk with one of my grad students on stem cells. And one of the points I made there was there's a bit of false hope in stem cells. Yes, stem cells are really important in trying to understand mechanisms. We can use stem cells to differentiate human cells into neurons and really study mechanisms of disease. But in terms of sticking stem cells into the brain and curing ataxia, yes, we'd love to see that happen, but that's not happening in the next 2 to 3 years. And if you hear otherwise, it's false hope. So I'm not here today to talk about false hope. I have real hope based on a lot of other approaches that are occurring. I've been in the field for about 20 years, and a lot of people my age who are in the ataxia field entered the field because it was the era of gene discovery. Suddenly, this mysterious set of ataxias, which we didn't know how many diseases it was, we started to find genetic causes. This was in the early 90s, and it kept building over the next decade, next 20 years, so that we now have virtually almost 100 different genes that cause different forms of ataxia. And we have lots of ataxia for which we still don't have the gene defects or other causes that are occurring there. So we entered the field because we knew there was an opportunity to discover the mechanism by finding the genes. And that's a good thing, because you can't understand research buys answers. You can't get answers unless you toil in the laboratory to find out what's going on. And you're going to hear later today from clearly, if not, I think she is the best ataxia researcher in the world, Huda Zogby, and she will talk about soup to nuts, from finding gene defect to understanding mechanism to working toward therapies. And that's going to be a brilliant talk. And then you're going to hear tomorrow from Brent Fogel, who's going to talk about how new genetic discoveries, new approaches to genetic sequencing are uncovering new causes of ataxia. And some of you out there I met someone in the elevator today who has an unknown ataxia. And some of you have sporadic ataxia or unknown ataxia. In some cases, there's a gene defect. And approaches that Brent's using, these next generation sequencings, are identifying some of those. So those are two great examples of where the field is going and why I have hope. But more than that, I have hope because the research that's brought the answers, those answers have led to therapeutic strategies. And we're now in a position where we have actual therapeutic strategies. We heard from Dr. Bearman from Biohaven. There's a therapeutic strategy that's being tested in patients. So yes, money buys research, research buys answers. I'd say answers leads to therapeutic strategies, and therapeutic strategies will lead to treatments that work. Okay? That's where we're going. So just yesterday, and I am not making this up, just yesterday I got 2 emails from 2 major companies, both of whom, and these are unrelated companies, have green-lighted their programs for therapy for ataxia. They wouldn't have done that 10 years ago. Because even though we might have had the genes discovered at that time, we didn't know mechanisms. We didn't have the answers that led to the therapeutic strategies. But now these companies, and of course companies are, they want to treat patients, they want to make people better, but let's face it, companies want to make money. They don't enter into something unless they see a possibility of having something that works for patients, what I care about, and for them and their investors making some money. All right? Now we're at that position. We're at that position not only for the dominant ataxias, the spinocerebellar ataxias, but we're in that position for the recessive ataxias as well. One of the things that I think has been very exciting in the last couple of years is, almost 100 genes. That's bewildering. How can we possibly understand what's going on? But if you look at those nearly 100 genes, and you say, what are the mechanisms underlying the ataxias in all of those nearly 100 different causes? We come up now with about 6 sort of common things that are occurring there. 1, DNA repair problems in recessive ataxias. 2, channel dysfunction, ion channelopathies, or ion channel problems underlying a wide range of ataxias. And frankly, I think that's where Biohaven's going with their product, is looking at something that affects channels. And that's where a lot of groups are looking at, saying, I don't care about the gene defect, I care about the circuitry. And I think there are channels that are not working well, and we can manipulate those channels and improve symptoms. Okay, so channel defects, DNA repair, problems in bioenergetics. I think that Friedreich ataxia is a great example of that. Polyglutamine expansion diseases, these are one of the major causes of dominant ataxias. We know what's going on there. And with the polyglutamine expansion diseases, we now pretty much accept the view that those mutations cause a toxic property of the gene product. So that makes it pretty clear. If it's a toxic gene product, we got to get rid of it, right? We got to get rid of it. And it doesn't matter what everything else happens over a 30 or 40-year period with that toxic gene product, what little pathways affect here or there. What matters, can you eliminate that toxic gene product? So that's a strategy that's come with fruit to bear now for the toxic spinocerebellar ataxias. So there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of excitement. And the final thing I will say is, what makes me excited is I see a change in this organization. This organization has always been great at pushing for research that will buy answers. And they still want that. But they have a vision, and I think it's a new vision, that we're really going to move toward therapies, and they're investing in clinicians, scientists, who will actually begin to test those therapies in clinical trials. Some of you have been here. I saw some hands up. Can't remember how many times they've been here. Some of you have been here for 20 years. And you've heard many times, oh, they're getting ready to do trials, but where are the frickin' trials? Okay? We are doing trials, and we are going to do more. And where Biohaven exists, there are other companies ready to also get involved with us. You'll hear about our rebooted Ataxia Consortium for the Dominant Ataxias. So that's my final reason to have real hope as opposed to false hope, is that I think this organization, National Ataxia Foundation, has turned the corner, recognizing that as a field we have matured scientifically to the point where the answers have led to therapeutic strategies. Let's go get them. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Hank. Appreciate it. Thank you. Well, it's time for the props. Got to have props, right? What kind of talk would be worth anything if a guy didn't have a couple of props, right? Because, you see, we got to talk about building this foundation. So what goes better than maybe a little time for a little construction, right? What's that? It's not a balance board, no. We'll find out soon. I guess we've got some safety glasses and some goggles and the whole bit, but I think you all get the picture. You get to hear from Dr. Paulson here a little while ago on the things that are happening. They're moving at full speed ahead. They're the clinicians, they're the researchers, they're doing their thing, using their talents to make this thing deliver the results we're all looking for, right? We're not clinicians, we're not researchers, but we are in this community. We all can play a role in it. Start a walk in your community. We have some new walks coming next year. Where are we? I know we've got Nebraska, Skippy and Linda. I'm sorry? Yeah, I know. By 2 o'clock you'll be set. Okay? I think I saw one in Kansas yesterday. Oh, New Hampshire? Where else? I know we're getting the east coast of Florida sometime soon. Where's Lisa? There we go. All right? Our 60 for 60s. That's our role. Okay? You know, if you look around, we all see walks and fundraising events going on with other organizations. Okay? Those are the families that are doing it. It's not the national office that is doing them. We're here to help and support and do these things we can, but we all know that the rubber meets the road in the field, in the communities. We can all play a role, and I'm committing from our office that we're going to do everything we can to give you the tools that you need to be successful. Like I said earlier, the one thing we can't do is nothing. And that's not even part of the discussion, is it? We have some big goals, for sure. The main thing is to provide Hank and his colleagues across the country with the resources that they need to really keep the accelerator down, keep the gas pedal down, and finding those treatments. So if you don't mind, I'm done with the props. My wife's going to love that picture. I know. Jeez Louise. something like that all the time with me. There we go. Well, got a couple days of conference here. And as Camille said, this is your conference. We want to know if we're delivering what you want, what you need. And you know, swing by. I know we have a survey that you're going to be coming, you'll be seeing at the end of the conference. Track us down, pull us aside. Let us know what you're looking for. I'm going to probably do the same with you. If there's a chair at your table this evening somewhere along the line, I just might pull up and ask if you don't mind. I won't take too much of your time. But this is a time for all of us to get together. And we want, as a staff at the foundation, we want to make sure that we're doing the best we can for you. Finally, once again, for our first-timers, we wish you the best and that you get everything out of these 2 days. Remember, you're not alone. We're here to help. Get your questions answered. And just because on Sunday morning we all might get on a plane or in a car and go someplace else, with technology that we have today, it's a phone call away, it's a text, it's an email. Put us to work. Let us answer those questions for you. Thank you all so much for your attention this morning. Have a great couple of days. Thank you.